And welcome to the final part of the Castlevania 3 Alucard playthrough, and we're at my least favorite level in the game. Well, actually, I'd take this over Block 7 in Alucard's route, so I guess that's something? But anyway, I've mentioned this before in the second playthrough, but this level is hell. Like, if there actually is a hell, it's probably your punishment is to play this level over and over and over and over again for all of eternity. And it's not just play it, you have to do a perfect run of it. No damage, pacifist, you can't kill any enemies, no sub-weapons, no power-ups, no whipping any candles, basically no fun. But, yeah, with the whole flea man, you just take them one at a time and whip them as they come. You don't want to just try and skip them all at once. That's a bad idea because they just multiply, and you deal with so many of them, and they are faster than you. So just take them out as soon as you see them, and you shouldn't have too many problems. The weird thing about that candle over the platform you can't get to unless you're Alucard is that there's just a heart in it, nothing else. I find that odd. You think if you put something so out of the way, you'd want to put something a bit more rewarding in there, but... I'm somewhat amused that the designers bothered to give a waterfall sound. Yeah, it's a nice detail. And this room. Unlike before where I had to make my way methodically through it, screw it, I'm using the bat form. I don't care. Fortunately, I can't exit this room in bat form, but, you know, I skipped through most of it. Be careful, if you get hit, it's very easy to fall back in the pit because you'll immediately untransform. And I'm making this room look a lot easier than it is. You know, just... it's so easy to get knocked over by the gargoyles to your death, or just take so much damage in the room. And even if you get through it, you'll probably be at like one hit left before you die, which really makes the rest of the level incredibly tense. So yeah, it's like, if you have an extremely hard time beating this level, I don't blame you. I consider this one of the hardest levels in pretty much the whole Castlevania franchise. I mean, this game isn't as hard as the X60000 Castlevania, but which I consider the hardest one. Unless we count Haunted Castle, but I like to pretend that game doesn't exist. In my own nice little deluded world. And in that world, Castlevania 2 is actually good, so... Anyway, auto-scrolling level. Like before, previous auto-scrolling levels, just manage yourself, don't get impatient, and you shouldn't have any problems. I still don't like these kind of levels, but well, most of my issues with auto-scrolling levels are ones where you really just can't advance forward, and the pace of the level is just way too slow. That's what kills auto-scrolling levels for me. These I don't mind so much because, you know, you're moving at a somewhat decent pace. So it's not a big deal for me. I still don't care for these, and I don't prefer them, but, you know, lesser of two evils. There was a 1-up back there that I collected. If you're struggling with this level, you can keep collecting them over and over again after you die so you don't get game over. Because if you get game over, I mean, you don't have to start the game over when you get game over in Castlevania. You just, you go back to the last level you completed, but you have to go back to the start of the level. Going back to the start of the level is better than playing the whole game over again, but, you know, you'd rather keep your previous checkpoint. Anyway, in the wall to the right, there's a meat you're probably going to need, unless you're insanely good at the game. Not that I'm tooting my own horn or anything. Anyway, you could go the long way around like I did in the Cyber playthrough, but I'm not going to do that. Screw doing that. I'm going to just use the bat form, move fast. I don't care if I took a hit. It's not worth hanging around here too long. And we have the final section, which really is a bit of a breather compared to the rest of the level. Just the Medusa heads are the only thing to worry about, and I don't even think Medusa heads are that big of a deal. Obviously, you run into a trap if you get hit by Medusa heads, where those platforms will constantly flip because you're jumping all the time to recover. Anyway, there's a triple shot, and I'm going to be a cheap ass with this boss because I don't like fighting this guy legitimately. He's just... I've tried and I have managed to beat him the fair way, but it's not worth it. Just get yourself a triple shot of holy water and you beat him just fine. There are tricks and ways of how to deal with him, quote unquote, fairly, but to me it's not worth my time, and I can beat him just fine with this method. Anyway, we're back to the final level of the game, again, for a second time. I've always liked this music. It feels very tense, and I feel pretty appropriate for a final level. Like before, you want to pick up this axe, just because, you know, it makes the final boss so much easier. You're really not going to need the holy water for the rest of the game anyway. It's not useful against any of Dracula's forms. If you're holding on the cross instead, that might be different, because the cross can still be pretty useful against any of Dracula's forms, but yeah, again, another auto-scrolling section. This one works in reverse, which I guess is different, but not really. I guess it's a little more tense because you're constantly having to worry about the Medusa heads. And yes, you will die if you get trapped at the top of the screen, so don't think that's a easy way out. Anyway, take the stairs to the bottom, and we deal with this room. This room is a lot harder if you don't have Sypha and her electric orbs to basically one-shot your way past these bone pillars. They become much more tedious when you don't have that. Which can cause a lot of aggravating and painful deaths. The thing is, there's so many of these obnoxious parts of the floor that break apart. So I'm trying to use someone to kill that bone pillar, because if you get right next to it and just keep trying to whip it over and over again, you'll fall into a pit, and then you'll die, which obviously wouldn't be pleasant. Anyway, I've got my double shot, which is pretty good. Great English there, but I mean, it'll work for the boss. And we have the final meat of the game. Pick it up unless, you know, you really feel like you don't need it, which you probably do. Red skeletons, you were never a threat. All I'm attempting to do is build up kills for a potential triple shot, but I don't actually get it. And this room is so much more bearable than in the US version, because in the US version there's bats flying around in this room, and they are going to knock you off these pendulums to your death. Funny thing about these pendulums, most of the art in the game is really well, but I always find how those pendulums look to be really funny, and I mean that in a bad way. Like, it just feels like it was one of those things they just kind of threw together at the last second. Not a big deal, but, you know. You could pick up that cross if you wanted to, and he helps out in the first two forms, but, I just prefer having the X for the final form, because I don't really think Dracula is all that difficult, as long as you know to keep your distance from him. If you get up close to him, you'll constantly be trapped by the fire he shoots up. But keep your distance, and he's really not that hard. You might take a couple hits or so, but like right there, but you know, he's pretty easy. And we go to phase 2, which also isn't threatening at all. It looks more creepy than anything. I don't know if this is just something the designers just made up, or this is an actual thing in mythology or whatever. Because Castlevania tends to borrow a lot from mythology, so that's always a possibility. I should look this up sometime. But, you know, procrastination and all. The axe and the cross are the best tools to go to for dealing with him. Axe a bit more so, but the cross works. Holy water, you've got, well, jack shit. This boss is more tedious than it is hard. Well, the second form at least. This can be a bit more of a pain in the dick, especially in the US version, because his lasers are huge. Like, they're downright tiny in this version, which is why I prefer this version, because it takes a difficult level and then makes it pretty much impossible. Well, impossible is being a bit hyperbolic, but it made it unnecessarily difficult in my opinion. But here you can just chuck axes all day long and he's down for the count. And do not walk into your death. I've done that plenty of times on my own, and you'll feel like a complete dipshit after you do it. So don't do it. And that's the end of Castlevania 3. Again, for the second time. The scene doesn't do much for me when it's not sci-fi. I don't know, just something about it. When it's Trevor and Sypha, oh, it always comes off a little sweet to me, but it's just Trevor and Alucard, doesn't do anything for me. And Alucard will go to sleep for however many years until his upgrade in Symphony of the Night, which he becomes a literal wrecking ball. Shouldn't it became legendary and not became legend? I don't know. Is that pronounced Akamojo Densetsu, or is it pronounced something different? Whatever. It's not a big deal. And we get the credits sequence. This is actually one of my favorite credits music themes in the series. Not as good as 4's, but 4 is undoubtedly the best in the series, for an obvious reason. But at least this is more fitting than I Am the Wind, so... It's definitely a feel-good piece of music. But anyway, that's the Alucard playthrough. I enjoy playing the game as Alucard, I just don't enjoy it as much as Sypha. So to me, if I were to tell someone to go play Castlevania 3, I'd basically say, go play as Sypha first, then if you enjoyed that, come back and play as Alucard. And yes, I will eventually do a Grant playthrough, I don't think immediately, but... you know, in time. And that's it for this Let's Play Castlevania 3. This was Hookos, and telling you to have a good day.